Hi, welcome to Unforgotten Reels, where every story is a pulse in the dark. You won't need loud noises or cheap thrills to feel it. The tension speaks softly, the dread settles in slowly, and by the time you notice the chill crawling up your spine, it's already here. Our short film for today is entitled Whispers Under the Skin. Let's start. The night split open like brittle glass. Tires screamed, metal folded, and in the quiet that followed, there was breath, fragile, trembling. Thomas's. They said it was luck, a miracle, a mangled car, and nothing but a cracked rib and bruised lungs. But Thomas didn't feel lucky. He felt watched. Because when the paramedics pulled him out of the wreckage, something unseen slipped inside, unnoticed, like a secret hiding beneath a bandage. And later, in a hospital bed, beneath white sheets and humming monitors, his fingers twitched, not in pain, not in panic. They twitched, like something else had moved first. Psychological echoes from the accident. But trauma doesn't move. And that night, as machines beeped rhythm into the dark, Thomas didn't sleep. Something inside him did. Thomas stood in front of the mirror, shirtless, skin pale against the steam-streaked glass. The sun returned quietly, dusty light leaking through thin curtains. He scratched his arm again. A ripple, a whisper of movement, like something stirring in its sleep, just beneath the collarbone. Instead, he heard something worse, a rehearsal. They came from inside, soft as breath, brushing against the inside of his skull, and again, until redness bloomed beneath his nails. The itch wasn't in his skin, it was under it, slithering, evading his touch. Curious, they called it nerve trauma. Later, in the dead silence of early morning, he felt it shift. Thomas pressed his hand against the spot, heart hammering. Not from behind walls, or vents, or phones. The flesh pushed back, and in the silence, something else breathed. The kitchen clock ticked louder than usual. Or maybe it only felt that way because the whispers had started. They didn't come from outside. At first, they were unintelligible, like a foreign language being sounded out for the first time. But slowly, they began to learn him. Thomas leaned closer to the table, half expecting to see his thoughts written there. His own voice whispered back at him, not an echo. And somewhere deep inside, something was listening. Thomas took to writing. Journals, sticky notes, napkins, anything to trace the line between what was his and what wasn't. But the handwriting betrayed him. One day, it slanted wrong. Another, the words came too quickly, too cold, detached, like a guest copying the host. He wrote, "I am in control." But when he blinked, a new line appeared beneath. "No, we are." The pen fell from his hand. The room held its breath. There was no struggle, no screaming fit, only a slow, creeping question that curled at the base of his spine. How long had he been sharing the page? He recorded himself, desperate to catch the whispers. But the playback brought something worse. The tape didn't capture background noise. It captured a reply. A voice, low and learning, whispered through the static. "Can you hear me now?" Thomas recoiled. He hadn't said that. Not then, not ever. But it was his voice, twisted like a reflection in broken glass, confident, warm, familiar. Another voice on the tape followed. "You weren't using it, so we moved in." And in that moment, he knew this wasn't haunting. This was hatching. He stripped off his shirt in the bathroom, a marker clenched in trembling fingers. He began to trace where the movements occurred. Lines formed like a spider's web across his chest and spine. Not random, never random. They curved, they coiled, they communicated. symbols, patterns, a language he'd never seen but somehow understood. And when he finished, the final mark just below his ribs, his shoulder jerked violently. A new room, a new city, no memory of how he'd arrived, not from pain, but like something was celebrating. And behind his eyes, something clapped slowly. Thomas woke on unfamiliar sheets. His phone buzzed. 8 missed calls, 3 new voicemails from himself. He played 1. "It's almost time. You've been generous, Thomas." Same voice, same cadence. But it wasn't him. There was no hesitation, just joy. He held the phone like a stranger's confession. A smile formed on his lips, and it wasn't his to control. The voice inside no longer whispered, it planned. He drove anywhere, nowhere. The GPS rerouted again and again until the road beneath him felt like it belonged to someone else. He turned the wheel, but it fought back. His hands trembled, then stiffened. His mouth opened to scream, but no sound came. Just a smile in the rearview mirror, soft, serene, foreign, and the route on the GPS read, "Welcome home." Thomas realized he was no longer the passenger. He was the vehicle. He sat before the camera, recording what felt like a goodbye. His eyes were hollow, his hands too still. "I'm not alone in here," he whispered. But then his voice changed. Mid-sentence, it grew warmer, steadier, like someone else was finishing his thoughts. On the screen, Thomas smiled. On the screen, Thomas thanked himself. The camera didn't blink, but the man behind it did, with someone else's rhythm. And the video ended with 4 words, "We are almost complete." Morning light painted the hospital walls in gold. Thomas walked in upright, confident, familiar, but not right. The receptionist greeted him like an old friend. He answered with a smile, but behind the eyes, something else looked out. He checked in for a routine scan, but it wasn't routine. It wasn't for him, because the whispers were quiet now, because they were gone, but because they had finally finished. He passed a mirror in the hallway, and for a moment, the flesh beneath his left eye wriggled. Just once, like it was waving goodbye. And the man who had once been Thomas kept walking from the hidden corners of the mind, where thoughts echo unanswered and identity becomes a conversation, slowly, unknowingly, willingly, the end sometimes. The loudest screams are the ones we never hear because they come from the inside. Whispers under the skin isn't about possession, it's about surrender. Because the scariest monsters don't take over by force. They wait for an opening, a crack, a moment when we look away and they whisper, "I'm you now." Till next time, thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more dearfully crafted nightmares. Hit the like button and leave a comment to share your thoughts.